What's up, Detroit? This is the Riles and Riley Rundown, back with another episode. I'm Tommy Riles with Brendan Riley. Not a good start, Detroit.
Season over.
Yeah, we were talking about it last week, that this was a must-win pretty much for our Lions, and they pretty much did the exact opposite. This team just does not look like a good football team right now. I mean,
and to be honest, last week at least we were able to come away with some positives.
Yeah.
As far as from this game individually, I cannot think of very many positives, if any at all.
No, I mean,
Joique Bell looked good.
Lately, Stafford, we've been defending Stafford, saying, okay, just give him time. He's going to start being better. I mean, he had the yards last game, but even Stafford last game just was not there.
I still have a problem there. I mean, he had the yards, but okay, he did have 21 completions this week. His completions percentage didn't look as good. I saw Pettigrew drop 3-4 passes.
Exactly.
I saw Calvin drop 3-4 passes. And about Calvin, I've never in my life, in that last possession, seen Calvin. I'm not even exaggerating this. So far throughout his career, I don't think I've seen him miss two passes that easy in a row.
Yeah, well,
I actually believe he has a concussion.
Yeah, so do I. That hit in the... I can't believe there was no... I forget if there was a penalty or not.
There was a penalty.
Okay, yeah, because it was completely not helmet to helmet, but leading with the shoulder into the helmet. It didn't look good.
And Calvin wasn't the same after it either.
No, he wasn't. And that's the first time you've actually saw Calvin Johnson with a weakness. I mean...
Right. I have a hard time believing he was okay because twice he just watched passes go by him. And it wasn't like they were hard passes.
Exactly.
They were passes that an average NFL receiver would have made.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to go back and look at all of the drops in that game because I know Young had at least 2 or 3. I know
Pettigrew
Calvin had at least 2 or 3.
big ones.
Pettigrew missed the touchdown in the first quarter.
Calvin missed a touchdown too. His was a lot tougher because he took a hit. But
yeah, definitely. But Pettigrew's one.
I don't think Stafford had a bad game, in all honesty. There's only so many times you can have the ball dropped in the end zone. If Calvin and Pettigrew held on to his and they had 2 passing and 1 rushing, all of a sudden you're saying, oh, Stafford had a good game. I really don't put this on Stafford. I put it on the passing offense, but not as much Stafford.
I put it on the special teams.
Here's when you got a problem. The number 1 leading receiver in yards, Joique Bell.
Yep. That is a huge
How many downs did he play?
Yep. Well, here's another huge problem. Last week, we're all about the run, and we're trying to get LaShore back into the swing of things and everything, and just trying to establish a running game. And then this week, you go out and rush the ball 20 times as a whole, instead of giving him his 20 carries, and you get a total of 55
Well, and really,
yards.
They don't seem to get this idea of balance at all.
At all, no.
Because, you said as a whole 20 times. 4 of those were Stafford.
Yep.
4 of those were scrambles.
Yep.
Only 13 times the ball was handed to LaShore, and I believe the other 3 were all receivers.
Yep. For how great we were talking about the play calling being on the first game of the season against the Rams, it has completely gone downhill. This team has just looked like a joke for the last, basically, I'll say for sure the last 2 weeks, but I'll give them a little bit of credit being that they were playing San Francisco, but it's not looking good, Detroit. I mean,
I think, honestly, all hope for this season is really lost.
Yep.
And all you optimists out there can tell me I'm wrong. But here's the thing. It's not that I think you have a bad team here that can't win games, but I've been saying from the start, 10-6 may not get you in this year.
Yeah.
You have 3 losses.
Well, let's think here. We were saying 10-6 wasn't going to get us in when the Vikings were 0-0 with us. Now the Vikings are 3-1. And now the Bears are 3-1, and now the Packers are 2-2.
And you've ran out of. I mean, some of your easiest games came at the beginning of the schedule. You got to play Houston. You got to play Philadelphia in Philadelphia. You got to play Green Bay twice.
2 more wins for sure. Well, what I'm calling for for sure in Jacksonville and Indy.
I was saying leaving the game on Sunday. I don't think that I can. I think there's wins left in the schedule, and I honestly think this team's going to bounce back at some point this season. Yeah. I just think it's gotten too late. Not in the schedule as much as how the games they got left. I mean, to make the playoffs at this point, you probably need to go 8-2.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And 8-2 is not possible for this team if they keep playing.
Actually, you know what? I'm gonna make a bold statement right now. If this team is to make any sort of a run this year, and when I say any sort of run, I mean 8-9 wins.
Yep.
They're gonna come out and win their next 2 games after the bye, and if they don't, this could be a 3-4 win team.
Yeah, and we also have noticed now in the past few weeks that, the cornerback and safety position is killing us right now.
But at the same time, you got to look and say we didn't give up a single offensive touchdown in this game.
True.
And for those of you who like us on Facebook, I noted that the Lions have given up as many touchdowns on special teams and their offensive turnovers as the defense has all year.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
You did see the youth coming out in our secondary. I mean, Bentley had, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 big pass interference plays where...
Bentley doesn't look at the ball.
No, he doesn't. He completely looks at the receiver, and once he finds the receiver find the ball, that's when he starts going after the receiver instead of the ball. And that's not a good start. But that's going to come with experience, and I feel like Bentley's going to be something when he matures.
I think we got a lot of the pieces here, and I'm really not concerned. I'm concerned for this year, but as far as... for the long term, you have the offensive weapons, you have the defensive weapons, you have the youth. One thing, my number one problem with the defense in this game is not even the defense itself. My issue is, why did we sign Ricardo Silva from the practice squad less than 24 hours before the game and start him?
No idea.
Not only play him, start him.
Yeah, I don't know. This team's got question marks all over it. I will say though, Delmas has to be back after this bye week.
We need Delmas back.
If Delmas doesn't come back after the bye week, I'm really going to start worrying, because that means you've had 5 weeks when this injury started off in the first game of the preseason as week to week. Now all of a sudden it's becoming, you should have put him on the PUP list and opened up a spot on the roster, because if you get to week 6, there's your PUP list. So, and after our bye week, we're in week 6. So I'm going to throw it out there that we do really need Delmas back.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone can argue with that. And there's absolutely no news from what I'm seeing.
All that we keep hearing from Delmas, or about Delmas, is it's week to week, and we'll...
And you know what I don't get either? Why do we routinely place Louis Delmas on the doubtful list, game after game?
Yep.
He hasn't practiced in 2 months.
Just call him out.
Right. Why are you saying
Well, that's what I said. I mean, if you knew, I don't know if you knew or not, but... if you did have any inkling of a hint that he was going to be out this long, you should have just put him on the PUP list. That way we could have freed up the roster spot.
No, they must not have known. Or the only other thing I can think of is they were afraid of scaring fans, and I don't think that's what it was about.
Right.
Honestly, I don't know. There's not a whole lot to talk about for this game. This team's in trouble. I think we may give up 10 special teams touchdowns this year.
Well, we've already
maybe not quite 10, but I think we're on track. We're on track to give up around 10.
Yeah.
Knowing you got to play Chicago and Devin Hester twice. I mean, what is this team going to do?
Nope.
And the offense. Let's not put it all on special teams. The offense can't move the ball. Here's what I want to point out really quickly. Third down efficiency for the Vikings, 3 of 12. You don't win games that way. How did we lose?
Exactly. Let's see here. You've got next game, Deshaun Jackson will be returning kicks. There's probably one, maybe
at least
2. Next game, Chicago. There's Devin Hester.
Another one, probably.
Maybe 2. Then you go down, Seattle, Jacksonville, probably not going to give up anything there.
But you never know with this team. I mean,
Minnesota.
I could run a touchdown back on this special team.
Minnesota, you got Percy Harvin. There's another 1, maybe 2. And then you go down all the way down to the last week of the season when you finally play Chicago again.
And we haven't even really gotten into it. I guess we shouldn't do too much of our show on special teams, but Jim Schwartz says that it's nothing but physical issues, and the special teams coordinator is not responsible for this.
It's hard to do or not do a show on special teams when it's the only thing killing this team.
If you didn't give up 2 special teams touchdowns, you win this game.
Yeah, and if you didn't give up 1 special team touchdown 2 special teams touchdowns last week, you win that game. So let's see here. If you don't give up special teams touchdowns, that makes us 3-1.
Where everyone put us right now.
Exactly.
Now here's my issue with what Jim Schwartz said. It's all physical issues. It's not scheming. So you're telling me. Because, special teams in general is the rejects of offense and defense. The guys who are good enough to be in the NFL, but not good enough to start on the offense or defense. Yep. So you're telling me that the reason that we can't stop people is because our rejects are not good enough.
Yep. Well, here's one pretty weird stat that I just noticed while I was searching on ESPN. I know we haven't played the elite of quarterbacks yet.
No, not even close.
Right, like we've actually haven't played a quarterback really yet, period. But something to look at, our opponent passing yards per game, we're number 9 in the league right now.
Or defense? I actually don't understand why people are ripping apart the defense.
No, because I think they're doing that because you're seeing teams put 20 to 30 to 45 points on. But it's not the defense doing that. It's returns for touchdowns.
Anybody who puts any part of this loss on the defense, I think is crazy.
Yep.
The defense gave up no touchdowns. They only gave up 2 field goals.
I agree.
The yardage allowed. We gave up 100 yards passing and 127 yards running.
Yep.
We gave up less than 250 yards.
Yep.
We held them to 3 of 12 on third down. I've never seen a team lose a game like this.
Yep.
I mean, I've only been watching football, 7-8 years. But in those 7-8 years, I have never seen a team lose a game in which the defense gave up less than 250 yards and the opponent converted 3 third downs.
Yep, and that's with Stafford having a horrible start. He's also leading the lead in passing yards per game right now too, with 322 as a team, and most of that.
Our biggest issues are which I do agree with Jim Schwartz on this, are that we are not efficient enough. We are not converting our third downs. We went 6 of 16.
Yep.
We're ending drives and we're forcing ourselves to punt.
Yep.
Which maybe you can handle that if you have a special teams.
I'm gonna blow this up one more time because I texted Brendan while he was at the game this weekend and basically called everything.
You know what? I know what you're going to.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in just a little bit because we both have a lot to say on that one.
Gonna blow up on this guy.
You guys can wait for that. I know exactly where he's going with that. But you can maybe handle to not have to not move the ball quite as well down the field when you have a decent special teams. But what I would really like to see, people are saying the reason that we can't go deep or whatever right now is because they're playing too deep safety. Well, for one, teams did that last year. I don't care what you guys say. Do you think teams weren't going too deep last year? You're crazy. Well, how did we have 2 safeties in a corner and Calvin on a regular basis? Teams they're playing the same defense they were. And 2, let's use the depth at receiver we have. I'm not in a hurry to get Ryan Broyles out there. I think we're starting to get to the point where you want to see them out there after the bye week.
Yep.
And not just out there, but being effective.
Well,
you have Calvin, Titus, Burleson, Broyles, Pettigrew, Scheffler.
Yep.
And you could even throw Kevin Smith out there with some decent hands. 7 receivers.
Well, there was an interesting.
You got to move the ball. Running's not necessarily the way to do it. Short passes work too.
There was an interesting thing on ESPN the other day talking about grading like the team's drafts over this past season through 4 games. Right now, honestly, besides Bentley, we haven't even seen our draft class. I mean, Riley Reif might have played 2 or 3 plays so far this season. I don't even know if he has that. So that's your number 1 pick. Hasn't even seen the field, really. You've got Ryan Broyles. Hasn't really seen the field, really. I'm okay with Ryan Broyles since we are so deep in wide receiver. But then Bentley, I think he was your 3rd or 4th round pick.
3rd round pick.
This just keeps itching at our fact that I think we did need to go cornerback or safety in the draft. I mean, if we were planning on having a Bentley start in the first few weeks of the season, there's no way we shouldn't have gone.
Well, we expected to have Aaron Berry at that point as well too.
Right.
But I mean, not like he was any.
Exactly. But we knew that Delmas was going to.
But
be
again,
out.
I don't like to put too much pressure on this defense because they've done a good job.
Right. Exactly. But I'm saying
honestly,
that
this defense has very little to do with the reason that we're 3-1.
Right.
If anything, 1-3. If anything, I would say this defense. If this offense was anything like last year, we have a shot at being 4-0.
Yep. I'm getting at the fact though that this past draft right now so far has not been too great of a success. It is a little bit early to keep talking about it because we haven't seen what our first 2 picks honestly can do. Broyles was out there for a little bit last week, and like I said, I haven't seen Reif on the field yet. I mean, I know offensive linemen don't get the publicity that every other position do, but usually you will hear them if they are a rookie starting in a game on the television broadcast, and I haven't heard his name yet.
So I'm sorry. Was that Reif or Broyles that you were mentioning?
Reif.
Okay, Reif has been out there. He was out there for the first time a little bit more last week. I don't know what his numbers were. I saw him at least 5 or 6 times. They're lining him up at tight end. Not with the intention of passing the ball to him, I mean. He's coming in as an extra offensive lineman when he's coming in. But he has been on the field a little bit, more than we had seen in the past. All right, I think we can get to what Tom wanted to mention. And
yeah.
You can go ahead and say it. I have a little bit to say too, but you can go first.
Okay. We're in the second quarter. There's about 1 minute and 40 seconds left. Minnesota decides to run the ball 3 times with Adrian Peterson. They don't get a first down. What does Jim Schwartz do? He calls timeout. So you're thinking, oh, all right, we're going to get the field position. We're going to come out. We're going to score. We're going to go for it. And finally, this team's going to start being a little bit more aggressive with their play call. No, the dummy goes out there, gets the punt. The next play, he wasted the timeout basically, thinking that he had to use all 3 of them in one half, and he sends Stafford out there to hand the ball off to LaShore for a 2-yard gain, and then goes into halftime. You cannot do that.
Now I'm just gonna have a little bit of defense here. There was only 16 seconds, but Stephon Logan, if I remember correctly, just kind of ran all over the field, and didn't go anywhere.
That's what I'm saying. There was 36 seconds when the punt
Leave yourself
started.
that time. And you know what? This one doesn't bother me as much as sometimes. Although I agree with Tom. I can't stand it when there's 1 minute and 30 seconds left, especially when your offense is struggling so much and your defense is doing better. Let your offense run what they're good at.
Yep.
Let your offense move the ball down the field quickly. Worst case, you give up an interception. maybe the defense scores. You know, you got to take that risk when it's your offense that good. When it's your offense that's good and your defense that's weak, although we haven't seen that yet this year, let your offense move the ball and let them be the ones to win the game.
Yep.
Especially when you're already losing.
Yep.
If you're tied or winning at that point, you can argue it's not worth it. But when you're losing, if you're saying you're okay going into halftime down against Minnesota, I have a problem with that.
Yeah, it's Minnesota.
And actually, I think it's 4 games this year now. We've called a timeout, got the ball at before halftime. Called a timeout, got the ball, and didn't do anything.
Minnesota does not have a great defense. You shouldn't be scared to try to drive the ball down them or drive the ball down the field on them in the last few minutes of a game, especially when you're losing. You're already underachieving this season. Your fans are starting to turn on you. I heard boo birds going out throughout the stadium, at least over the broadcast.
Oh yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, and it's not a good way to treat your
I
fans.
agree with that, actually, when it comes to fans, what Jim Schwartz said. He mentioned that, you know, I don't know if you guys kept TV on for the whole game, but that last play of the game was pretty loud.
Yeah.
And what he said, you know, these fans are doing all they can for you. I mean, these fans are still loud for you on third down. They're loud for you on defense when you need it. But they're allowed to let you know they're upset.
I wanted to close on that, actually. How in the world can our offensive line allow a sack when they're barely bringing any pressure on Stafford and a Hail Mary?
A sack. I don't know how many sacks there were.
Yeah, no, there were a lot of sacks in the game, but I'm talking about in a Hail Mary situation when every defensive back is just back there basically playing prevent defense.
5 sacks for a loss of 33 yards.
Yeah. How are you going to allow a sack on Stafford to where in the last play of the game we don't even get a pass off? I mean, it already happened to where Stafford was already shaking up.
You got to put a little bit of that one on Stafford, though. He needs to put that ball in the air.
He does. And I honestly was thinking about it, and I was talking to my dad during the game. I would not have been upset if they would have put Sean Hill in that situation. I mean, he just did it last week. We all know that Sean Hill does have the deeper throwing arm than Stafford. I mean, Stafford's the better precise passer.
I'm sorry, that's crazy.
Sean Hill can throw the ball deep.
Okay,
that's one thing that he can do.
Sean Hill, I can't believe you just said that. I'm sorry, that's one of the. I don't even know what you're mentioning there. Sean Hill doesn't have anywhere near the arm of Stafford.
And deep ball, Sean Hill can throw the ball deep.
Stafford could probably hit the end zone from the other 40, maybe even the 30. I don't think Hill would have a shot at that.
I don't know, man, because we've seen Stafford throw the ball deep now, and every time
Hill put everything into him to get that ball to the end zone against Tennessee. To suggest that Hill could do that better than Stafford.
I'm just throwing out there. I mean, even the guys on the on Fox News or on Fox were talking about it. With everybody agrees that Sean Hill does have a stronger.
I've never heard anybody say that.
As far as deep ball, I mean, he did it the week before with Calvin and Titus Young.
But that was 50 yards.
True, but we were on the 45.
You could throw the ball 50 yards in the end zone.
True.
If Stafford can't do that, he shouldn't be our NFL starting NFL.
I'm just saying we saw Stafford has not been as accurate as he has been in the past this year with the deep ball. I mean, we've seen him go deep now 3 or 4 times to Calvin, and all 3 of them were pretty shaky. I mean, the one play Calvin basically had to murder his guy just to get up in the air and catch it, then lost his helmet. And it wasn't that great of a throw. It was behind him and everything. I'm just saying...
He's not getting time this year.
True, exactly. And that's a big point on why I was focusing on the offensive line. We've got to start giving Stafford a little bit more time so he can look downfield. Because right now, Stafford's in the mentality. He looks deep downfield, but he knows someone's going to be coming on his blind side, so he's wanting to check down right away and get to a tight end or get to a running back, which will work. But it's nice to have a little bit of mix-up in this to where we can throw the ball deep downfield and stuff, too, especially when we have the assets like Pettigrew, who, if he could learn how to catch a ball, would be great, and Calvin, who also did drop a few last week. I mean, but even with Calvin's drops, none of them were really deep. It was just all up the middle, and I mean, Stafford.
The two that he had, they weren't actually officially drops because he didn't put his hands on the ball.
Right.
They were. He just didn't put his hands up to the ball.
Right, and it wasn't on Stafford either. Those were good passes by Stafford.
Like I said, I've never seen him miss 2 consecutive passes that easy. Because I fully believe that an average NFL receiver would have made both of those catches.
Yes, exactly. And it's all a matter of, I think that for the first time in his career so far, you saw Johnson get a little shaken up.
I think he got a concussion.
Yeah, so do I.
I think it's a joke, this whole concussion test. I think players are still playing with concussions on a regular basis.
Well, they were showing the test that they do. The test that they do was having Calvin touch his nose, touch his shoulder blade, touch the guy's shoulder, and touch the guy's shoulder to his left. That was the concussion test that they showed. They literally went to Fox for 5 minutes and showed it.
No? Okay, get in the game.
Exactly. So the concussion test obviously isn't that much. But, I mean, there's not much more to take away from this game.
You know what? The one positive of this weekend.
We won't lose.
Well, well, I meant actually this past weekend, and you could say, well, I guess not quite the weekend, Monday. The Tigers clinched the Central.
Yeah.
We will be talking about the Tigers in the postseason, probably in our next 2 podcasts with the bye week, unless any special.
So
news
there's
comes
still
out.
hope, Detroit. We can still win some type of championship. And but yeah, as Brendan said, we'll throw a show out there next week. We've kind of veered away from the Tigers, being that it's Lions season, but I think me and Brendan are kind of sick of talking about the exact same thing every single week. So at least we get a bye week to not talk about the Lions losing.
To get a chance to talk about a winning team right
exactly.
now.
But I'm not going to give up complete hope yet. I mean, if this team can get a few big wins with Philadelphia and Chicago next on their plate, I mean, if they can honestly go in and beat Philadelphia and Chicago, this could change or turn things around a little bit. I mean, because if you have Philadelphia, Chicago, if you win those 2, you're automatically back at 3.
Like I said, if they win those 2 games, if they have any shot of making this a season, they need to win both.
Yeah, because if you go there,
and then you come home for Seattle, and that's a winnable game.
4-3 maybe.
You have to go on a winning streak now.
Yeah.
Now it's win this and you're back in it.
Exactly.
You need to go on a winning streak.
Well, there was an interesting note that I saw a couple of days ago that since our 5-0 start last year, we are now, I believe they said 4-13.
Yeah, something like that.
Or 5-13, which is kind of hard to believe since this team made the playoffs, but I mean, we got to remember last year 10-6 was good enough to make the playoffs. This year,
I mean, very well.
Now that you've got the NFL or the NFC West,
the one and only thing that looks good for us is the fact that the Saints aren't going to be in the race.
Yeah.
I expect the Saints to win the division and the Falcons to win the wild card.
Yep.
And the Panthers are slowly starting to slip out. I mean, it's a little early, but they're starting to slip out too at 1-3.
Well, the scary part thing is
10-6 will give you a shot, but it's going to be tough to get to 10-6 even.
The NFC East, you've got Philadelphia, New York, and Dallas. All 3 of those teams have a legit chance of making the playoffs. In the NFC West, you have Seattle, Arizona, and San Francisco. All 3 teams have a chance to make the playoffs. And then in the NFC North, now you honestly have Green Bay, Chicago, and right now Minnesota. I mean, like it or not, Minnesota's 3-1. They're still. I don't think it's going to last.
It's going to be tough to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
But you know what? The Lions could use a high draft pick too.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't mind one because I do think they got the talent and something's going to turn around.
Me and Brendan were talking about it at the beginning of the show, or before the show actually started. If this team did get a high draft pick, it honestly could be just what they needed because they're only a few pieces away.
Yep.
And if they can get...
If you can get a guy who can step in and be... honestly, although, like I've said, the defense has been okay, if you can get a guy like a Patrick Peterson and have what he did for the Cardinals last year. I don't know what Claiborne's done so much this year, but get a guy like that who steps in and makes an immediate difference, and you got a real team.
Yep. All right, Detroit. Well, that is going to be our show. Remember to go like us on Facebook at the Riles and Riley Detroit Rundown, and also we have decided to go on our own for the Sport in the D website. We are now sportinthed.com. You can just look us up there. It is through WordPress, but we do have our own website now. Go ahead. We got some good reads up there about the Pistons, Tigers, Red Wings, all your Detroit sports, even Michigan State.
And we would love some writers too, if you want to write.
Yeah, if you want to write,
just let us know.
Send us a Facebook message or something, anything you want.
Comment on YouTube, anything.
Yeah, and we just send it to us, and we'll let you know if it's not good enough to get on the blog.
All you got to do is you type it up, and I can just read it, make sure everything looks good, make sure it's not someone being stupid and messing around and put it up for you.
Don't rip apart our teams, because, I mean, although the Lions are struggling...
No, you can rip apart our teams, just don't be stupid. Don't,
exactly.
Don't suggest that we should cut Calvin Johnson.
Right, exactly. All right, Detroit. Well, for Brendan Riley, this has been Tommy Riles and the Riles and Riley Rundown, and you guys have a good week.